All right, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of Seek Your Summit. I have Jess Ekstrom with me today. She is the founder of Mic Drop Workshop. We're going to talk all things speaking and kind of get into her history to where she is today. So Jess, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jen. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Entrepreneur at heart, my kind of gal.
Always.
Yes. So your journey started with Headbands of Hope. What inspired you to take that first step as an entrepreneur?
I think, with my first company, Headbands of Hope, I was in college. I was so naive to the point where it made me a great entrepreneur because I wasn't thinking about how many, businesses fail or how hard this is going to be or how much money I'm going to need. I was purely moving through, I see a problem, I'm going to create a solution. And at that time, the problem I was interning for Make-A-Wish. I saw a lot of kids losing their hair to chemotherapy, being offered wigs and hats, and they wanted to wear headbands. And so that was my first company, Headbands of Hope. For every headband sold, we donate one to a child with an illness. And I think, since then, I've really tried to channel that inspiration from frustration, and my future ideas have been things that I've been frustrated about. And I think that's like where our best ideas come from.
I do, right? Like, hey, if this is bothering me, it gives me this passion and this excitement to solve the problem. And that can get you through hard times.
Yeah. And if it's bothering you, it's probably bothering someone else. And that's going to be your first customer.
There you go. Perfect. And I love how you said, like, I was delusional and I didn't know all the details of all the things about starting a business. Now that you know more, how do you keep that delusional aspect going? Because I think it's required.
It's so required. It's such a good question. And I'm curious your answer too. It's like more of a practice than it is a default, to be delusionally optimistic. That was what my first book was on. It was called Chasing the Bright Side. It's like, how do we continuously see the good in the future so that we're the ones that are building it? Because you can't build something you don't see. And so to continue to be delusionally optimistic requires you to really like override these natural negative defaults that we have around like what's the worst that could happen or thinking about what other people think of us. And I think, the thing that I'm exploring now for my next book is what if we approach things with the mindset of like, we've already arrived. We're already there. And everything that we're building is just the cherry on top. And everything that we're building is like really finding the enjoyment of the process rather than just like scratching and clawing at the outcome. And so I think that that's how I become delusionally optimistic is believing that I'm here and that I'm right where I need to be. I think I used to work from a lot of like a place of anxiety, of feeling behind. And you don't produce the best work that way. And it's miserable. And so to produce what I'm building now from a place I'm already here, but I just like doing this. I like working. I like building. I like being in front of people. Like that is way more fun. And therefore I think my work is better for it. But what about you? How do you remain delusional?
No, like I love that we're talking about this because it's so the same. So for me, I always think like I'm on the summit. Like if I've already made it in my mind, then right now I'm going through the motions of it so I can embody it, not just think it. And the reality is if it's already been created, now how do I make it fun? Right? Because there is that point where like this is a slog or this is hard or this is whatever, but that's a story. And that story like either empowers you or makes it more difficult. And so anytime I feel like, oh, why am I making this harder than it needs to be? This is happening. The challenge is how do I bring people with me? How do I like have the lessons be global? How do I have fun doing it? Because anybody can build a business like with grit. But building a business out of like joy and excitement and empowerment, like that's a constant decision you have to make every single day.
Every day. And I think the other part that's important in this conversation is it doesn't mean that there's going to be like things that we don't like to do. Like there is going to be crap that we still have to deal with. But my metric that I try to hit is like, I want to like what I do 70% of the time. And if I'm hitting 70%, that's pretty damn good life. And so, but yeah, there's going to be the 30% where I'm like, man, I really don't like being in these finance meetings and I hate having to have tough conversations with employees, or, there's just going to be things that you don't like to do in your job or in your company. But I'm like, if I can hit 70%, then that's a good day for me.
Yeah, no, I like that. And giving you those percentages, right? Because that's realistic, and saying, okay, this is a game that I'm going towards, and it's a moving target for all of us. And so having those targets that we're like going towards, and then reevaluating regularly and saying, okay, here's what my last quarter looked like. Here's how I felt. Right? Like I asked that question. I never used to ask how I felt because it didn't matter. And now I'm like, no, it matters. I want to know how I feel. And then I want to look at my calendar and be like, what am I not doing this next quarter so that I get more of the feels I would desire?
Yeah. And I think sometimes for me, it's not even the feeling in the moment. It's the feeling after.
After.
Even like with certain people, I'm like, how did I feel after I talked to that person? Did I feel really confident? Did I feel insecure? Did I feel energized? Did I feel emotionally drained? And like, even, with speaking or with my company, Mic Drop Workshop, I learned that like, I get really energized from working with groups of women, and helping them get on stage. I get really drained working one-to-one, and I don't think I'm as effective. And so just even learning those things about yourself by taking those clues of like, how do I feel after is like such a telltale sign.
No, that's awesome. And isn't it fun when you do like the group training sessions? Because I used to be this person that it was no one-on-one because that's how I'm getting the most benefit and I'm efficient with my time, blah, 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 blah. But if you're in a good group, the lessons you learn from each other or the perspective there, I mean, you just can't get that one-on-one.
Well, and so much of our model with Mic Drop Workshop is referring other women on stage. And I mean, I can teach you how to speak all day long, and I can teach you how to find opportunities. But the real like 80-20 rule here is to form alliances with other women who have differentiating topics, but that are complementary to yours, who are maybe in the same experience or price point that you are. And after you get done speaking at, XYZ event, always asking them, are you looking for speakers for your next event? What are topics? What are you looking for? And teeing someone else up. Because the beautiful part about speaking is that there's no skin off your back for referrals, because once you've spoken at an event, they're probably not going to book you for another couple of years because they need a new person in there. So why not team up with other women? And so that's become such a core part of what we do at Mic Drop Workshop. It's like outside of just the curriculum of speaking, it's the other women that you can meet, form friendships, but also referral partners with.
No, I like that. Okay, so let's fill in a gap on this story here. We had the headbands and that business did well. You exited. And then what got you into this next industry?
So the way I was able to scale headbands, being, 18 years old, not even knowing anything about marketing, and definitely not having a marketing budget, was I knew I could just get in front of people and tell people about the story of why I started this. And then I realized, okay, if I cannot just tell my story of what happened to me, but make my story matter to them, like what's the big takeaway? What can they learn from this? Then I can actually get paid to do this, which was crazy to me that there was an industry out there that was like professional storytelling. And so I started speaking was the way I was able to self-fund and scale Headbands of Hope to being what it became. And I'm sure, as you've seen, Jen, I was speaking at a lot of different conferences and realizing, there's not a lot of women in this lineup right now.
Right.
And I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've even been told point blank by a meeting planner, like, we just needed a woman. Like, I just don't even know who you are, but we just needed a woman. And then I had a few scenarios where I found out what some of my male counterparts were getting paid versus what I was getting paid to be there. and I was ranking higher in audience feedback than they were, but getting paid less.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, wow, there's just like, what's going on here? And so it was 2018. I rented out the bottom floor of this restaurant here in Raleigh where I live, and I put up an Eventbrite. And I was like, any women that want to come learn the ropes of public speaking, come on down Thursday night. I will have wine and cheese, and I'll teach you everything I know. And then there was women that were like, can you record this so I can watch it later? There was women that weren't local that wanted to be there. And so that was what became Mic Drop Workshop. And it goes back to that inspiration from frustration in the beginning of like, it's really frustrated about there not being representation on stages and women not getting paid to speak. And so Mic Drop Workshop was the next thing out of that. And so we help women become professional speakers.
Oh my gosh, I love this. That's so good. And I love, like, I think everybody that's listening here today, one of the things to note about speaking, which I used to think it was just meant you're on stage. But when you learn how to craft your message and learn how to speak, like it matters in meetings, it matters in like day-to-day things. Like the stage
100%.
is one venue, the skill set plays into everything.
I mean, on the other side of a promotion, of like multi-million-dollar exit of your company, of a marriage proposal, of like whatever it is, someone had to know how to deliver good information. Like that was the first step. And so speaking is not just the fuse to each other, it's a fuse to opportunity. And I think that that's why, you know, I saw this thing the other day, this venture capitalist, and, you know, there's like so much data around women aren't getting the funding, you know, as male-led companies. But this VC was saying, and women's companies are outperforming the male-led startups. But when they come to me, they're not gloating about it. Like they're not saying how great they're doing, yet they're crushing it. And I think that for so long, like women in communication have been taught to downplay and to be smaller and to not be too boastful and to not be too assertive. And therefore, opportunities are suffering because of that. I don't think it's just women's responsibility to be more assertive and dominant in conversations. I think it's like, well, the people who are making those decisions have to start looking at the facts instead of just looking at who's loudest and who's most confident. But it's time to like shift the narrative around public speaking. It's not just about these like TED Talks and big stages. It's just about a tool that is the key to opportunity in just everyday life.
Yeah. And just learning how to craft your story that isn't obnoxious and arrogant and over the top, but is not small and hidden and like, right? I mean, it's this balance of here's who I am. This is what I've done. Here's how it's being done, and being able to communicate that effectively because it benefits everybody.
It benefits everyone. And, you know, just a tip for anyone who's listening when we're talking about storytelling, one of the things I teach in Mic Drop Workshop is instead of trying to tell the movie, like the entire thing of what happened, give them a scene. And that's going to be way more powerful than a movie. So for example, instead of talking about middle school as like, middle school was really tough for me. I was bullied. I didn't get good grades. You know, I was a loner. That's the movie. That's like this extended version of what middle school was for you. Instead, a scene could be, I remember closing my locker and going into the cafeteria and holding my tray of like another day of meatloaf and boiled carrots or something gross, and looking around and wondering there's no place for me to sit. And that is a scene instead of a movie. And so when you want to like infuse story, whether it's in a presentation or a talk, like people want to be there. And so take them there with a scene.
Oh, I like that tip. That's really, really good. When someone's crafting a message, like what are things that they need to think about to leave impact?
So I teach a framework in Mic Drop Workshop called Bump, Set, Spike. And this can be really helpful in how to like organize what you want to say.
Okay.
So the bump is warming them up, setting them up. Why should they listen? Why should they care? And what's a common misconception about what you're about to say? So let's say, for example, I'm trying to get across that, women need more funding. Let's just go off of that. I could start my bump with something like, we think that maybe women aren't asking for funding, but they are. They're just not getting it. And here's why women should get funding in businesses. And then I'm going to go to my set. My set is the story. So what is the anecdote, a case study, or a personal experience that I have with this lesson? I remember when I was trying to get funding for Headbands of Hope, and I just remember looking at my inbox and wondering if there was something wrong because I wasn't getting any responses, and getting into that story. And then the spike is the headline. What's the takeaway, that like one sentence that you want them to take away from this? When women get funding, women get opportunity. Or like, what is the word package that you could just put on a billboard or a bumper sticker that could live on its own? And so that warms them up. It gives them a personal experience or an anecdote or some sort of support, but it also tells them what they should remember, because we're so distracted these days and we just have constant access to information that we have to be able to deliver the takeaway that you want them to remember on like a bite-sized dish. I think a common misconception with speaking is that like the job as a speaker is to like give them something new or give them something complex or give them something that they've never thought of or never heard before. A lot of your job as a speaker is to simplify what they already know, but in a way that might feel new to them. And so one of the like most common things in mic drop workshop that I ask people to do is like that thing that you want to deliver that you're talking about, how would you explain it to a kindergartner? Like that is the best starting point, because when we try to overcomplicate things, the message can get lost.
Yeah. And when someone is delivering a speech, so let's say they're doing a 45-minute keynote, are you trying to keep the same theme throughout the entire message? Or are you saying, okay, for that time frame, we should have 3 takeaways? Or is there not really a formula there?
I think that, the formula that we use is what's the North Star of not just your keynote, but your personal brand. Like when people land on your Instagram, when people subscribe to your newsletter or your podcast or hear you speak, what's the aftermath that you want? So I think step 1 of being a speaker, we call it a transformation promise. What do you want people to believe and achieve after hearing you speak? And then when you build a keynote, typically a standard keynote is around like 50 minutes to an hour. Mm-hmm. And so we break it down into 5 micro talks that are around, 10 to 12 minutes. And each of those micro talks is a different lesson that someone needs to understand in order to arrive at that transformation, that believe and achieve. And so when you're asked to speak for 45 minutes or 30 minutes, instead of reworking your entire talk, remove one lesson. So it goes from 5 lessons that make an hour talk to 3 lessons. That's a 30, 45-minute talk. I think the thing I would really avoid as a speaker is reinventing your talk every time you get booked to speak. And a lot of people think, well, I'm getting booked to speak for this group. I need to totally customize my entire talk and my entire experience to be for this audience. And when you do that, you're never going to build momentum because you're starting from scratch every time. Great talks get built from reps and just getting the repetitions in. And also the event doesn't want you to do that either. They don't want to pay 10, 20, 30 grand for something that you're giving for the first time. So they want something that's proven, and you can still customize a part of your talk without starting over from scratch with the whole talk every time.
Yeah, no, I like that. I do. I think everybody likes that piece of, oh, if I hire Jen, this is what I'm getting, or this is the message, right? And then you tailor that message for that individual group because, they had a setback in marketing or they had whatever going on. So you're tuned into them, but your entire thing doesn't change. It's applying to who they are and where they're at right now.
And I think knowing that you're going to get tired of yourself because you're going to be giving the same. Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm like, I have done this speech how many times? Like you have to get, so how do you recommend somebody get excited when they've delivered the speech like 3 times this week?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine like how many times Mel Robbins has said, let them over the past, 6 months. She's probably like, let them. Oh my gosh. But I think in order for you to build momentum, it has to feel redundant to you because it's the first time someone else is hearing it. So whether it's your story or your takeaway, if it feels like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this one more time, or I can't believe I'm putting this thing on my website again. I put it on the homepage. I put it here. I put it there. That's good because people need to hear things multiple times in order to start associating that with you. So when it comes to your own energy around it, I think I just try to remember, like, this might be the 1,000th time for me, but it is the first time for this person. Mm-hmm. So do it for the first time for that person instead of the 1,000th time for me.
Yeah. No, I always have to pick one person in the audience. And I'm like, okay, this person, I'm delivering it to them, their story, all the goods. So yes. How does someone get more confident in public speaking?
I think there's a lot of things around confidence in speaking that I honestly don't agree with.
Okay.
Some of them, some people say, just keep preparing, like over prepare. And sometimes I think over preparing can psych ourselves out a little bit when we're just like scripting word for word and time again. So the tip that I like to give when it comes to confidence and also just settling your nerves before you talk is something we call the difference between being a spotlight speaker and being a lighthouse speaker. So a spotlight speaker is going up on stage or to a presentation or whatever it might be with the light shining on themselves. And this is how we've been trained to be public speakers, like that this is a very vulnerable, scary experience. I mean, we had spelling bees in school where we had to get it all right, or school plays. And it's like, yeah, being up in front of people is scary. But when you're a spotlight speaker, you're asking yourself, how do I look? How do I sound? Will they like me? What does the audience think of me? But when you're a lighthouse speaker, you're not asking what the audience thinks of me. You're asking, what does the audience need from me? A lighthouse is shifting the light from themselves to the audience. It's like, I don't care about what I look or how I sound. Where are they at now? And where are they looking to go? How can I make their life 1% better or get them headed in the right direction? So a lighthouse speaker is asking questions about what are their struggles, what are they need, and how can I help? And so when you come into a speaking opportunity and shifting the light from performance to service, it changes the way you think about the opportunity because it's no longer about you. It's about solving what the audience needs. And so anytime I feel like I'm getting really nervous before a talk, I picture someone in the audience, just like you were saying. But I might do this backstage and I literally think about them going through their day. Their alarm goes off, what they had for breakfast. Maybe they're dropping kids off at school, getting into their job. And I'm like, this isn't an audience I'm speaking to. This is a person I'm speaking to, and they have needs. And the key here to being a lighthouse is believing that what you say delivers on that need. Like great speakers believe they have great information. And so in order to calm those nerves, taking the light from yourself to the audience, but believing the thing that I'm going to deliver is going to help them.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you're sharing your story so that they can find themselves in it and be like, oh, this is where I'm getting stuck or confused, or here's a different perspective, or, oh, that's a good way to problem solve and continue to climb.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that if we can, another thing that might seem counterintuitive is asking yourself, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And let's just run through it right now. So we do these trainings called Mic Drop Club, and we help women at work speak confidently at work. So these are women that aren't necessarily looking to get paid to speak. They just want to get paid. They just want to get better at their job with speaking. And so when we run through, well, what is the worst that could happen? You lose your train of thought when you get up there. Someone falls asleep in your presentation, your PowerPoint doesn't work, like the clicker breaks, the mic goes off. All of those things have happened to me. Mm-hmm. And every single time I've had some sort of solution. Did it suck in the moment? Absolutely. But I recovered. And so going through like, what's the worst thing that could happen? What would I actually do if that happened? You start to realize, oh, I have an uncanny ability to think on my feet. Like whatever it is, I will be able to figure it out. So maybe it's not necessarily going up there and having a plan for everything, but it's knowing that you can handle anything. And I think that's a mindset shift that's really important before you go up on stage.
Definitely. And what are things that people would learn at one of your events to be able to run a meeting better or to show up better at a company?
So with Mic Drop Club, we meet virtually every month and learn some new public speaking skill. And then we meet quarterly in person, and we're in around like 15 different cities right now. And this is the first year we've done this. It's been really cool to be able to see these come together. But some of the skills that we've been learning, eye contact. And so knowing how to do eye contact from a virtual setting and also in person. So for example, if you're in person, and Lindsay Picardo is our lead trainer at Mic Drop Club, and she's like an amazing speaker and also performance coach, but she leads this activity called Clear the Room. So you could do this with friends, you could do it at work with people. And when you're practicing giving a presentation, let's say I start talking and I'm looking at you, Jen, and you have a hand that you're holding up and you're showing all 5 fingers, and you go like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And once your fingers are down, I'm going to move to the next person, and they're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to clear the room until everyone's hands have gone down. Things like that help you get more comfortable with holding eye contact, with going from room to room instead of just looking in this like blank gaze at everyone. And so being able to, okay, now I've learned eye contact. Now I'm going to learn how to stack that with my facial expressions. Now I'm going to learn tone, and being able to stack individual skills on top of each other instead of just taking this like crash course public speaking. And now you have this like laundry list of how you need to stand, talk, and feel. That's why I like the setting of Mic Drop Club as a month by month skill stacking instead of like a crash weekend course all at once.
And is there 12 different skills that you stack?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You would be amazed. There is a lot. I mean, it gets into storytelling, body language, like visual aids, all of the things. There's so many tools in our toolkit with communication that we just don't even realize.
Right.
And when I think we can understand like, oh, even how close I am to the camera right now is saying something. Even the fact that I have my hand in the frame right now is adding a little bit of energy that maybe I wouldn't have had if I was closer in the frame. Knowing where these tools are in your toolkit and your ability to use them, again, on the other side of opportunity was someone who knew how to say it. So getting those skills together is what I want more women to have.
Oh, definitely. I'm all excited. I'm like, yeah, tell me more. Tell me more.
But you got it figured out. So,
oh, it's so fun. Okay. So you have this group, you can belong to it. You guys meet monthly. Like, tell us a little bit about this gig right now, just because we're on it.
Yeah, I would love it. So Mic Drop Club is a women-only public speaking club designed to help you get better at public speaking month by month. And so each month we learn a new skill, whether it's one of the ones we've listed, and then we practice. Because a lot of times, the times you get opportunity to practice speaking is when you're in the high stakes situation when you're speaking. Right. And so to be able to have like a sandbox for speaking and try something on, how does it feel when I do these hand gestures, or how difficult is it to clear the room and do eye contact? It's really hard to practice that when you're asking for $1 million in a pitch. Right. So how can we not just teach skills, but give women the room to practice with each other? And also, again, it goes back to forming those alliances. Women are extremely professionally driven and want to get better at public speaking. If we can get those kind of women in the same room, like, amazing what can happen. So if you want to see if we have a city near you, you can go to micdropworkshop.com/club. And you can see all of the cities that we're currently in right now.
Okay. Now let's say someone says, which I can just hear it now, I don't have a story. I'm a normal everyday person. Like, how do you help them excavate like their experiences? Because everyone has a story.
Everyone has a story. And I think it goes back to that spotlight thing of feeling like, okay, my story has to be groundbreaking to matter. I have to have climbed Mount Everest. I have to had single-handedly saved an extinct species in order to like get up there and speak.
Right.
When you think about some of the speeches or the people that have really mattered to you, it probably wasn't their big story that you were really moved by. It was how they communicated, and it was their relatability. People in the audience need to be able to connect the dots between where they're sitting to where you're standing as a speaker. So if you're up there and you're so robotically polished, or your stories are so outlandish, it's people aren't going to be able to say that could be me. And so lean into what might feel ordinary to you. I know, like when I first started speaking, I was like trying to just really share any way that I was credible and share these big stories. And it was just up there trying to like resume dump, and no one cared. And then I started sharing like these stories. I remember this one story I shared about going to a yoga class and like really not flexible. And the teacher at the end of class was like giving a compliment to each student as they walked out. She was like, "Great downward dog. Like, you are so like fluid in the way that you move." And then I'm leaving and she's like, "Thanks for coming." It was like the worst feeling. And I told that story on stage and connected it back to our inner dialogue and the way that we talk to ourselves and how we can let other people in. And it is the thing that people reach out to me about. And it was just this little yoga class. And so don't downplay your stories, and really don't, just because you feel like your story is small, it can make a big impact to someone else.
Oh, it can. Like, obviously, I set a world record. So I have huge stories. Yeah. And it's fascinating to me because when I talk to people after the stories on stage or whatever, like the things that land. Yeah. Right? Like, what everybody's favorite thing is my toothbrush talk. And it's like, what? Like, it came out like randomly in a Q&A once. And it happened because when you're brushing your teeth on the mountain, you don't have a mirror, right? So you're just out there brushing your teeth, looking at the world, thinking it's beautiful and life's wonderful. Well, when you come back home and you brush your teeth in Utah, like, I'm looking at the mirror and every day I'm picking on myself. Right? Like, oh, I didn't sleep enough, or my face is breaking out, or I need more lotion, or like all the things. Right. And finally, one day I looked at it, I'm like, this is not helping my day. Why am I doing this to myself right now? And so then I like was asking the kids at breakfast, I'm like, okay, what do you guys talk about? Like, what goes on in your head when you're brushing your teeth? And we had this big discussion, and we decided, like, okay, in our house, we have a new rule, and toothbrush talk, which is 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night, is only allowed to be positive. It's only allowed, like, we had these rules around it. And if you don't know what to say, we're going to put a little like clip on the window or mirror so you can read it and like look at it. But we did that for a week, and it was the tiniest things make the biggest difference.
And it's like, that is something that is accessible to everyone. Everyone hopefully brushes their teeth every day. Right. And they can say, oh yeah, that's something I can do. And so the fact that they were able to like, you know, take something from you that is so attainable, but also really helpful. That's what speaking, you know, is about. It's not about like, I invented the toothbrush. It's like, hey, here, do these toothbrush talks.
Right. And it's just every time I'm going on a stage or when I have like a big presentation, like I just remind myself it's these little human moments that connect us to one another. Yeah. And the achievements all look different based on whatever you're excited to achieve. But the little things we do to get there is what's fun.
Yes. I love that. Such a good example.
Yeah. It's so good. Okay, so where do you see the business going?
That's a good question. I think the next thing that I would be really excited to explore is publishing.
Ooh.
We, you know, have so many women who have now started their speaking careers through our company, and
Mhm.
speaking and books are like peanut butter and jelly. They just work.
Mhm.
And when people hear you speak, they want to buy your book. When they read your book, they want to hear you to speak. So I would say that's probably maybe sometime next year, a thing that we'll be exploring is like helping these women get published and maybe even publishing for them.
Oh, I like that. And how do you do that? How do you stay on top of your craft and
Hmm.
then also like stay curious about future opportunities? Because I think that's hard for a lot of us to stay true to who we are, but then
Yeah.
also explore that itch that keeps us curious.
Such a good question. And it used to be something that bothered me about myself,
Okay.
where I was like, why can't I just focus?
Yeah, right, right. Why can't I just be happy here? Like, why do
Yeah,
I always
why
have to
can't
have
I?
something?
Exactly. I'm like, why do I want to be in a pressure cooker? And I was literally saying this to someone this morning. I was like, maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie, but not like jumping out of airplanes, but more like business, business adrenaline, because I just truly love the idea of building things that are all pointing towards helping women be seen and valued as thought leaders. And so I think a couple things with this is like getting clear on that transformation promise, for yourself and for your company. So that way, when those like sparkly things come into play, whether it's an idea that you have or an opportunity that's being presented to you, or like, Jen, I want to start this, thing with you, you can say, does this fit under this promise that I'm trying to deliver on? And if it does, let's consider it. If it doesn't, it's not the time.
Yeah.
And just getting like unapologetically clear about that. And so I think I've really been able to filter and have a lot less guilt around my yeses and nos because of that clarity. But I think you're so spot on when it comes to still uh, pursuing my craft as a speaker while also teaching it. I never want to be so busy teaching the thing that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think um, keeping that front and center and building out a team that really has helped me take on a lot of the execution work where I can remain speaking, doing a lot of the content has been really helpful. And outsourcing can be really scary to like put your eggs in other people's baskets and pay for them. But I think you have to, my friend Kate Rose now, she's like a systems expert. And she says the best use of your time is doing the thing that you do best. And so,
Yeah.
like, my thing that I do best is not like writing a newsletter or tweaking a Canva header. So outsource those things that you don't do best so you can do the things that you do best. And I think that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, no, I like this. And I think it brings like our whole episode full circle because you said, like, hey, I need to stay in my zone of genius 70% of the time because that's
Yeah.
when I'm happy. And just honoring the fact that some of us are builders, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's where our joy comes from. And so then once you figured it out, like I'm not an executor. Like
Yeah.
once I figured it out, I'm like, I get bored with it. So then it's like, okay, I want to hand this off to you so I can go do the next thing and let
Yes.
this evolve. And it allows people to be a part of your mountain and a part of the
Mm-hmm.
climb and build this big community like you're doing, and everybody up levels.
Yes. And I think, for anyone that's like still unsure about where they're at, it's like, I didn't know that I was a visionary or creator until I had to do things that I didn't like to do.
Right.
And
Right.
so, when I speak like to younger audiences or even colleges, it's like every piece of information that you learn is good information about yourself. Like if you have an internship that you hate, great. Like you now know what you don't want to do. And so I think there's just so much about this that is experimentation. And if you can like remove your ego enough to let the experiments happen and say, wow, I'm really not good at that, then it makes this so much easier. And like you said in the beginning, Jen, so much more fun.
Yeah. 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 So everybody that's listening today, we're going to be delusionally optimistic because that's been the theme of the episode. We're going to lean into ourselves and say, hey, is this pointing me in a direction that I want to go, or is it teaching me something about pivoting into another direction? Mm-hmm. And as I start to develop skills and learn about myself, like, how do I get to communicate with others so that we all benefit?
Yes. Yes.
Yay.
I love that.
Okay, perfect. So everybody can find you how?
If you're interested in our public speaking training, you can go to micdropworkshop.com. And if you're interested in the club, the meetups, micdropworkshop.com/club. And one way I like to meet people is I send out a hype text every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern of just like a quote or a thought that I'm having that week. And so you can text me 704-228-9495. Text me the word hype and you'll get on that list every Monday.